thank you. And for those of you that are just joining, we want to welcome you to Motivational Sundays with Kevin and Friends. We just got a big chuckle because I went through a very dynamic introduction and forgot to hit record. But this is take two of what we do every single Sunday, and we want to welcome all of our listeners, both new and the people that follow us. Welcome, welcome. And just to give you a recap how this all came about. I am a three-time published author, and I am the co-host of Motivational Sundays with Kevin and Friends. I'm also joined with my co-host, Ife, that go-to guy. I'm also joined with Denise Lopes, educator, teacher, mom, queen of the spoken word, and just damn right good person. I'm also joined by our thespian and my good friend. And they're all my good friends, and I will continue to say that. He's just coming off a whirlwind tour from one job to another, and he's got a play. He also was part of a dynamic, what is it called? When all of the spoken words in New York City.
Oh, the next narrative.
Yeah, the next narrative. He'll tell you about that. But I want to introduce Naheem Garcia, the spoken word, and my brother in blue till we die, Bruce. New skill, new you, Bruce Hill. And coming up, I went from yellow to purple, Barbara Ullman. 3 languages she has mastered. I'm going to tell you, she has a gift when it comes to words. And welcome my co-host. So if you don't know what we're talking about, this is Motivational Sunday. We all have quotes that have landed on us in some kind of way. And I've also often wondered and was curious if the quote landed on me the same way it landed on other people, and whether just words are just kind of laid there on a paper or a conversation that need to be had. So today, Barbara has brought us a quote by Jim Rohn, an American entrepreneur, author, and motivational speaker. He's no longer with us, but his words are still with us. So today's quote is, I'm going to let Barbara go ahead and bring that into us. I hope you remember it. Be a student, not a follower. Go ahead, Barbara.
Be a student, not a follower. Yes, that's exactly right.
I'm so silly.
Yes.
All right. Well, do me a favor, Jim Rohn, okay, because you guys are young. All right. To listen to Jim Rohn, there's a lot of new motivational speakers out there, Tony Robbins, Les Brown, Mel, and a bunch of other people. When I see a young person have a quote by Jim Rohn, I wonder how you got attached to it and how this quote inspires or makes you think and how it landed on you.
Yes, this is really interesting because he is really the father of them all. Like when you read through his biography, all the big names that came after met him first, spoke to him first. And that's why I really love to go backwards to see the source who inspired them all. So this is why when I read about him, I was really excited and had to run with it. Being a teacher myself, this is always a quote that's interesting to me. Right? Be a student, not a follower. And first I thought maybe I want to change it because of everything that happened right here in Texas, and it's still happening now because I am in Houston, Texas, where they have the NRA convention as we are speaking, still till tomorrow. 4-day special holiday event, like 2 days after a mass shooting in Texas. And our former president also attended and spoke on the first day, which was Friday, to tell everybody, see if you would have listened to me and gave the schools weapons, all those kids would still be alive. We should weaponize the schools. And that is why I'm still like, first I wanted to change the quote, but then I was like, no, not at all, because we are talking about mini baby students here that have the future in their hands, and teachers who were students and now work with students. teachers like Denise, you know, that gave their life literally. They weren't just shot, they stood in front of their babies, knowing I'm going to die. And so I said, be a student, not a follower, is really meaningful because in essence, they thought about them first, you know, so you need to show courage, you know, you need to stand here. You need to say, after all I read, after all I learned, after I go to the source of all those motivational speakers, all those impressions that you had in life, you still cannot be a follower. You can't quote nobody. In this situation, Denise is Denise in her classroom. I am me in my classroom. And all of you are you on your workplace or wherever you stand and go. And this is why I said, no, in essence, I don't need to change it. It is exactly right. And I'm scared. I'm a mom of 2 kids in Texas. The last 2 days, I didn't really want them to go to school. I was nervous to pick them up. And being German, coming from a country where we have no weapons, so we really don't have to worry. We don't need to bring schools, bring weapons, even as a thought to defend students. I am now on the verge as an expat in America, considering to go back home just before my kids graduate because I don't feel safe. At this moment, I don't feel safe. And that's how this all came together.
To my listeners, I want to say this because Barbara and I had spoken length last night about the quote and what has been going on. And I've spoken to Denise about what's going on. You have to remember and make notes that these inspirational quotes and these words, and when we talk about inspiration, motivation, and all these other things that attach to something positive, is an emotion. So I'm okay if the trajectory of motivational Sundays happens to blend in with reality. And, you know, in the podcast world, one of the things they say is not to date your podcast because, you know, everyone that follows you is a new follower and new experience. But I'm going to say that there are some things that in our history that we can't just forget. We can't forget Sandy Hook. We can't forget Columbine. We can't forget Buffalo. And we are still living with Texas. So if this quote that we have by Jim Rohns creates an experience, I don't have a time limit on your interpretation or your perception of this quote because it's emotional. And many of us are, you know, have shed a tear because we've all had kids. And if we don't have kids that are connected through DNA, we have children that are connected to us emotionally that we inspire, both young and old. So I am going to throw this over to our thespian, my brother, Naheem. Be a student, not a follower.
I too feel heavy in the heart. I just spent Friday with my 9th and 10th graders. I teach in a place in behalf of a theater company called the Huntington Theater Company called Codman Academy, and it sits right in the heart of Dorchester. In 2020, I did have a student who was murdered a block away from the school. I'm always worried about that issue because of the gangs and everything else that somebody may come into school. And I think about how much I would put my life on the line for a student and how much I do put my life on the line every day I wake up to go to work and work in some school with a child. At any given time, this could happen, and just watching it unravel is disturbing. But on a positive note, one day I woke up and realized that I had to be my best student and follow my best guide and my best rules. And as a teacher, you always think that you have to constantly be educating, but sometimes the teacher has to be the best student and the best example. So what I get out of this quote is very simple and very direct. Be your own best student. Don't follow what you think you're supposed to do. Follow what you're supposed to do. Amen.
Amen. Ife, you are the youngest of this family. So I've always found great wisdom came from a conversation of the purest heart. And if you know where the purest heart comes from, it's from a child that has not been tainted by an adult's emotion or his perception of how the world should be. So this quote, and like I feel free, there's no time limit, but be genuine and true to your heart. Because I know that, you know, when Barbara was talking, we all had to wipe our eyes. So Ife, go ahead.
Well, be a student. I'm probably in conversations with you and conversations I've had in Clubhouse had the saying, when you stop learning, you stop living. So we are all students because we are constantly learning. We are constantly bettering ourselves. We are learning about new perspectives. We're learning about new systems and processes. And to the other part, not a follower, we don't just blindly go with the flow of things. We ask questions, and we have to make sure that it is for us and not just for the short term, but for the long term. And to kind of veer off the subject a little bit, but not quite, everybody had to feel something in the past week. I'm an uncle of 3. I have 1 niece and 2 nephews. 2 of them are going to school in the early stages. One of them is either in pre-K or kindergarten. So it's like every day now we're all of a similar mind, praying and just hoping that the children, the kids, the students, whether they're in elementary school, middle school, or high school, come back to us in one piece. And this, not to get too far or long-winded, but we hear the common refrain from politicians, thoughts and prayers. If thoughts and prayers aren't leading to actions to protect our kids in the safest place that they're supposed to be, where they can just learn and be themselves, school, these politicians have failed us. So it's been pretty abhorrent to see certain politicians say, oh, these kids and this school, this is unfortunate. And then a few days later being completely tone deaf, going to an NRA convention. And not that I'm against people arming themselves. I do believe in the Second Amendment, but you also have to have the context of the Second Amendment when there was no formed army at the time. And that was in the 18th century. And I do believe that our Constitution does grow with the nation. And not saying that people do not have the right to bear arms, but if we're bearing arms so that people that are unarmed and are living their lives regularly now have a paranoia or fear of what can happen, is that Second Amendment worth our babies dying? So I'm sorry, but I had to say it.
No, that's, you know, the one thing I like about what we do every single week is that the truth comes out, be it our own or be it someone acknowledging that our truth is also their truth. Don't apologize for speaking your truth. None of us, none of our listeners, don't apologize. If the recipient is not ready for the truth, at least he knows the truth. So never apologize. So with that said, I'm going to pass it over to Denise, and I waited until you got yourself together because I know all of our hearts are breaking. Even though these are not our children, we are a people as one. And no matter what the variation of skin tone, we are people that love people, and love is supposed to trump hate. And I hate using that word trump because it connects with the person that supports the latter part of the conversation I'm having. It's not a bias, it's a fact. Again, the truth. Denise, be a student, not a follower. Yeah.
For me, I'm going first with the quote: "Be a student, not a follower. Be always willing to learn. Be always willing to improve yourself. Especially as a teacher, there's always something new coming. Always new ways to teach. You have to look at the students in front of you for you to learn, and you need to learn from your students too, because the way they come in, they always have something to teach you, and you're not the always right. Because I work with a lot of teachers; they're the old school, like it's the way I say it, the way it's gonna go. For me, I want to learn. If you have something and a different idea, I want to see how you do it. How did you get to that results? Like if we do a math, because sometimes you teach in a way and the kids know it a different way. And for me, I come with students that come from different countries, so they learn different ways. I learned different way. When I came, I was a newcomer, didn't speak English. I had to do my math my way because my teacher allowed me to do it my way. I couldn't do it the American way. And I'm always willing to learn. I'm always taking classes to improve myself. And being a follower too, I don't like a lot being a follower too, but if somebody is doing something that's good, I like to follow them, to learn from them in that way, not just to follow blindly. Um, and that's how I see this quote: "You're always a student. You always have to learn. You always need to improve yourself, because a new skill, like we have over here, but then with you, a new skill, you always have to have a new skill, because the world is evolving anyways. You always have to learn something new, especially with technology. Like now we teaching through technology. If you don't know something about technology, how are you going to teach the new generation? So that's something for me. I'm always taking class. I'm always reading. I love to read because there's always something new. And for me, with the shooting, it hit home because I teach kindergarten to fourth grade. So for me, it's like I do the active shooter. I'm always anxious because we have to do it twice a year. It's like putting myself on the teacher's position. What am I going to do? How am I going to feel if I'm on that situation? Like, who am I going to protect? If I have a class of 20 kids, how are we going to get out? How are we going to protect and stuff? And the one saying to give a gun to a teacher, I don't want a gun. I don't know how I'm going to use it. I'm probably going to shoot the kids, God forbid, because I'm getting so nervous with a gun. So how am I going to be able to protect the kids with that? With all the training, with all the stuff, we never know what's happening. We just need to have, like I saw something like Ife said, thoughts and prayers. And it crossed it out, it said policy and change. That's what we need. We need policy and change, because not everybody's able to carry a gun. Not everybody should be carrying a gun. And how does somebody go into a school? We need to protect our school. We need a better security. That's what we need. We don't need more guns. We need different security. And it's like a person just goes into a classroom, and it's like the teacher, like the two that were there, they had to, that's how they died. Like Barbara said, they were protecting the babies. For me, I would do the same thing. I would go in front of the kids because I have lived, they haven't. Um, and for their future. So it hit home. I cried for days. And it's like going back to work. It was like with the kids in front of me, it's like, if it happens, what am I going to do? So it's still like affecting me. I'm still trying to figure out like, what can I do as a teacher? And it's like hearing the president say we should have put more guns in the schools. That just like, no, we cannot do that. Like, you were not in the classroom, you were not with the kids. So how, if you forget to lock your gun, like how it's going to be? Like if a kid goes to your desk or wherever, you have to have the gun. Like they don't think about those situations. And you know, the kids now, they're smarter than they were before. They know how to get through things. They don't got to get into things. Like they know how to hack something because they're very very smart. Like they doing this technology better than we are. So that's my thought on that. And I'm still thinking about the parents, the teachers, and it's like it hit home big time for me.
I thank you for that share, and through your experiences, I hope that someone that's in a position of power to listen to what you've said about arming people that are not equipped to pull the trigger and point it in the right direction, and what the risk we take and how much more damage we could do by arming people that choose not to shoot or take a life. And I'm going to apologize to the young women on here, because I'm going to use a baseball or sports analogy to introduce new skills, new skills, new you. Bruce Hill, bases are loaded, and we are in the ninth inning. of what this thing we call life. And right now, I would like to say the scoreboard says that we're tied, but we're a little bit behind. But I'm going to bring up, our designated hitter, our pinch hitter, Mr. Bruce Hill. New skills, new you. The quote, be a student, not a follower. And like I said, if you want to elaborate on the world that we're living in, and you feel free to do so. I'm also going to add a little bit something to the end of this when we talk about what we're doing, because everyone's looking for a solution or call to action. I'd like to hear what you guys would think in a very brief explanation of what you think should be done to prevent this from happening again. So Bruce, with that said, it's all yours, bro.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. So thank you so much. Bruce Hill, New Skills, New You is a lifestyle. It's a thought process. And so this quote, be a student, not a follower, by Jim Rohn, is one I've missed. And I've been studying Jim Rohn for years, because part of that new skills philosophy, right, is continuing to grow and evolve as personal development. So you read a quote that says, be a student, not a follower. And I guess the first question that comes to mind, why isn't it be a leader, not a follower, right? Those are two words we look as contrast to each other, right? And as I reflect on it, a good student is someone, I think someone said it earlier, asks questions. And a good student is someone who thinks for themselves. I believe a good student is more than just learning, more than just memorizing information. And that's where it becomes the reflection of a follower, because a follower doesn't have to think for themselves. They don't ask any questions. They just say, hey, this is what we're doing. Okay, that's what we're going to do. That's what the crowd is doing. And what's really fascinating about the concept of a student is someone that doesn't just go to school, learns everything, and stops. That's an ongoing and continuous process. And I wanted to be focused in. I was trying to look up some names. Something I discovered as I've been a student, if you go back and look at some of the Nobel Prizes for sciences, mathematics, physics, chemistry, they were often given to people who didn't major or specialize in mathematics, physics, or chemistry. And as I studied this, the reason was something called the near adjacent. And it's because they looked at things from a different perspective. They asked questions that someone formerly trained in that area did not think to ask. They asked questions that may have seemed foolish or even silly to someone that was studying that same topic for years. And those are the questions that needed to be asked. Those are the questions that got them the Nobel Prize. So I believe that when you follow what's supposed to happen, what's always happened, how we've always done it, you stop being a student and you've surrendered your ability, your right and responsibility to think for yourself. So what a wonderful quote, be a student, not a follower, someone who never stops learning, who never stops asking questions, and takes the time, the energy, the effort to think for themselves. I think that's very, very needed right now, because old problems are gonna need new solutions. I'm Bruce Hill, New Skills, New You. Thank you for allowing me to share.
That was so eloquently put. Bruce, I'm going to tell you, sometimes I hate following you. You just seem to have it together. That following Bruce is like going and being invited to perform at a live event, and just before you go on, Elton John comes up and he performs. And they said, Bruce, we're going to have you there, just a couple of seconds. As soon as Elton John performs, Prince is in the audience. It's, oh, let's bring up Prince. And then he performs. All right. And they go, Bruce, just as soon as Prince gets there, we're going to let you come up. All right. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Michael Jackson shows up.
Oh Lord.
And he puts on that thing. And they said, Bruce, you're up next. And all of a sudden, Bruce comes up, he tunes his instrument, and the crowd is looking for him, looking at him go, I only got one song, and you know, I'm following 3 of the biggest success, whatever. That's what I feel like right now. But I am going to tell you, each and every Sunday, and we've been doing this for a while, I am a student of greatness. I happen to be blessed with the gift to follow my co-host, New Skill, New You, Bruce Hill. I happen to have to follow Barbara, 3-time bilinguist of French, English, and German, happen to follow that. I happen to be a student, soon to be a student, in order to sharpen my acting skills with Nassim Garcia. You know, he's famous amongst his friends. He's a hero to many others. And then I happen to be a student of a student that is in my life, that go-to guy, Ife. But when I look at this quote and it says, be a student, not a follower, it's like, how do followers know where to go? Okay, because before there was a student ahead of them that laid the path, that became that teacher, that educator, that kind of put some of the hard stuff out of the way, didn't make it any easier for you to follow. So the conversations that we have every single week of the quotes that we share and our interpretations based on those quotes, we are all students of masters that have paved the way for us. And even though our hearts are heavy right now, we have to keep in mind, and these are all, with the exception of one, things that Jim Rohn has said. Again, author, motivational speaker, and entrepreneur. It says, don't wish that it was easy. Wish you were better. We can apply that to what's going on right now and how we're reacting to it, and the decisions that someone is making in order to copy what has already happened. The other thing is, either you run with the day or the day will run you. So when you talk about being a student, if you're following the idiot in the class, think about that quote. Without a sense of urgency, the desire loses its value. So Ife said it before, we have 50 seats in the House on both sides that have refused to acknowledge stricter gun control laws and refused on either side to go ahead and sign that bill to make it tougher for an 18-year-old kid that 24 hours after he turns 18, that he buys 2 semi-automatic machine guns, technically, and ammo, and no one cares, or doesn't come up with some type of suspicion. When we have a system that has allowed us to get hooked to an appliance that's about 6.5 inches long and 3.5 inches wide, that we can't live without, we can't go to the gym and not hold our heads down in between sets to check our social media pages and whatever. There is a system that has gotten you hooked. So you have to ask yourself every time you look at your phone without cause, are you a student or are you a follower? So if you don't like how things are, you change it. So when you talk about having a call to action or what to do, you know, I think Ife said this again in the chat. Someone wrote it in the chat. How does change happen with people that have power? You go to the source of where their power is, and that's their bank accounts. Martin Luther King did it with the boycott. So you have to look at it. You know, we have politicians running for office every single day. And because the distraction is stronger than the message at hand, we seem to sensationalize the drama of what someone says someone's not, or what they are, or whatever. Basically, let's call out all the people that support these laws that are killing our children, these laws that makes it easier to have access to weapons of destruction, because you have to also understand, I'm getting a little preachy here, that a bullet is only designed to do one thing: destroy anything in its path. So if we take the power away from them financially and quit supporting these people that would rather talk about how bad they feel at our funeral versus putting us in a situation to avoid the funeral from ever happening, we have to make that change. And how we have how we make that change is like, the power is in the people's hands. Stop promoting people that think you're expendable. The last thing I want to say is, how long should we try? How long should we do this? And I've always said, and this is for me, you do it until whatever needs to be done gets done. It's not the final answer, but if you talk about a call to action on how things need to get done, putting a gun in a teacher's hand that refuses to pull a trigger or does not want to be involved in that because in fear that where she may pull the trigger, the bullet may have a mind of its own out of panic, is not the idea. Having a Oklahoma governor sign a bill that takes away the right of a female 24 hours after 22 people had lost their life, 19 with children, it's just stupid. I won't say bad timing. It's stupid to even have that conversation. The fact that the NRA chose to promote a concert of deadly destruction after the aftermath is sending a message to those that are in harm's way that they just don't care. And to have any of our presidents stand before you and not have a final answer or pull together and says, let's make this change, it's just telling you we have a bunch of fools that have sat in the highest seat. All right. I'm going to say this. One of our presidents hadn't said a thing that made any sense for the 4 years he was in the White House. And he is out of the White House and he still has not said anything that has any merit to anyone else other than how someone's going to line his pockets. So with that said, let's try to end on a positive note. You know, I've got a lot of dynamic people on this platform that are doing dynamic things. I'm going to go around the horn. I'm going to start with Ife. Then I'm going to go to Naheem, Bruce. I'm going to end it with our two queens on this panel. So go ahead, Ife, what's up? Tell me about what's going on and leave the listeners with something to live with today.
Okay. Well, June is coming up and June is Black Music Month. I'm heavily involved in music. Juneteenth is coming up in June as well, a celebration of freedom. I'm going to use June to try to celebrate the people that I work with who are musicians and the people who laid the path in the past for the music that we have today. Let's celebrate each other. We have these difficult conversations, not to bring our spirits down, but to actually raise each other up and to know that we collectively care and figure out ways to make a difference. So with these conversations, thank you so much, Kevin, for actually having them. I respect, care, and love everybody that's on this panel because we pour into each other. So let's represent what's good in us. Even as we are seeing in our news, we're seeing some of the worst of what's going on, but we can inspire the best in our communities, our neighborhoods, and especially in our families.
All right, thank you. That go-to guy. a thespian.
I'm sitting on my porch, so I'm sorry to be hearing all the vehicles. Some good stuff has happened recently. I took one of my 10th graders to the Next Narrative National High School Monologue Competition to New York City, where she performed on the Apollo along with other children from all over the nation. What a wonderful experience to see these young people take playwrights' works and bring it to life. The other competition that I'm a part of is called the August Wilson National High School Monologue Competition, which deals with works from August Wilson, monologues out of August Wilson's work, which allows students to perform on a national level. They were in Chicago doing their competition, and that's another wonderful experience. And like I said, Friday, my 9th graders, up to the last 30 minutes, I wanted to strangle them all. And then they pulled a remarkable performance out of their pocket, as they usually do for the last 20 years. I don't get it. And every year I get ready to quit. And then that last 30 minutes, here comes this performance. And I say, I'm back. I want to see this again and again and again. We have all said everything we need to say. The image of a teacher with a gun teaching class is not a good image. It's a police. It's policing. And we should not have that. And the fact that we have wonderful educators on this platform that are fighting to make sure that they inspire and give their children the gold they deserve so they can pass that on to the next one is the blessing and the reason why I am here participating and with the schedule that I have. And I will leave you with this, my brothers and sisters, here and in the world. Feel your pain today, but tomorrow, feel your glory. Peace.
Peace out. Peace out. New skills, new you. Bruce Hill, do you?
I encourage everyone that's on my voice to learn how to grow your own food. There's no social justice without economic justice, and the purest form of economic freedom is not needing to use a currency. So this isn't a crypto conversation or the US dollar is crashing. No, go learn how to grow your own food, and I promise you it will solve a lot of your problems.
All right. DL, Miss Denise Lopes. Dry eyes, big smile. All right. Go ahead and give us some of that Caribbean thunder.
For me, as a teacher,
Yeah.
to all my teachers out there, keep the fight, keep going. You are inspiring kids, and fight for better education for everybody, that everybody has an equal education. That's what I do every day for my students. And I do not want guns in the classroom. As a teacher, I will be very anxious and I won't be able to do my job. And to the politicians, you need to look into the classroom. Go visit the classroom, see how it is, and see how we deal with the students, especially the babies, the little ones, and the high school ones too. From pre-K to high school, you need to be going to the schools and see how it's operated. I just keep on going. School is almost over for this year, but we still have next year coming. We need to do better. We have to do better as a nation.
All right. And I'm going to piggyback just a little bit before I go to Barbara. Politicians, when she says go visit the schools, not the schools of the privilege. Go visit the schools that affect our economic platform universally, the everyday schools, the ones you guys ignore and deprive of funding. So with that said, Barbara.
Yes, as an educator, a fellow educator like Denise, like Naheem, in essence, we are all educators, because if we are educated and keep educating each other, then we can't help to educate daily, because in essence, as Naheem shares his wisdom, he educates us and our wonderful listeners. So does everybody else on our panel, which is utterly amazing, really. That's what makes this so special also. It's a mastermind. We need many masterminds. We all need to be teaching all the time, teaching each other and love on each other, both, you know. I think both is super important. And my immediate response was running to Kevin and saying, okay, we need to do something because, and I love that Denise said that, don't forget the high school kids. My kids are high school kids. My kids finish school on Thursday. And I said to Kevin, and you know, now they don't know what to do with themselves, but get into trouble. Not my kids. I am blessed, yes, but many kids, there are issues because the summers in America are long and the parents still have to work. So I said, can we do a summer program dedicated to the high school kids because of what happened lately, and since both gentlemen were 18 years old, and fill their heads with education that they can take from and grow with. And Kevin, being Kevin, said, yes. And so I'm super excited because we are going to start very soon with our program. And it is going to be amazing because education really brings the bright future. Because when I know better. And that's my call to action. That's what I'm doing.
All right. And to our listeners, I want to tell everyone this is another episode of RMK Productions and the 10 United Podcast Network. Again, our mission is to uplift, inspire through stories, share experiences and perspectives using the framework of teaching, learning, and modeling. Our purpose is hope, helping other people every single day. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, or been touched by something one of us have said, and you have a higher call to action, and I say this all the time when talking with Kevin and Son, the people that follow, that listen, that go to RMK Productions and Network on our YouTube page have a higher call to action than anyone else. And we've been blessed to have people show up to help people change their life. Subscribe, follow, go to our YouTube page, or if you want to be part of this each Sunday, send us your information. Go to info@rmkproductions.net and follow. Again, I'm going to share a little bit something. Barbara said what we're going to do in the future. This is going to be something that we're going to be doing ongoing. There's going to be a workshop that's going to feature Barbara and her course on educating young people. There's going to be another workshop that's going to be attached to that. Is RMK Production is going to do a podcast workshop. It's going to meet once a week. There will be homework. It's going to be a little something different. We're not going to focus in on, how to make money and doing podcasts. We're going to teach people how to be professionals at doing this podcast network. We're also bringing in someone that's going to talk about economics and finance. Maybe we'll add in new skills, Bruce Hill, to talk about, the other part of business. But this is a program that we're doing. RMK Productions is expanding their network, and we're actually helping other people build their platforms. So to you, our listeners, I want to say thank you 1,000 times. I want to say, adapt this hashtag, find 1,000 reasons to be kind to someone. I know it's a little long, but you have to think about what I just said. The other thing that I want to say to our listeners, you are the change. You just need to be that change. As my grandfather always said, when you get to a position you can help someone else, it is your duty to do so. Reach one, teach one, and we'll fade the black. And we're out.
Yay.
Heavy, beautiful. I gotta go. I love and I missed
know.
y'all. I couldn't wait I just had to hear the last drop.
Yeah, me too. I haven't seen your face.
This was the longest podcast we've done, and normally it's between 25 and 30 minutes, but
It's almost 10.
It had to be done. It had to be done.
I think it had to be done. And,
It had to be done.
and
This was a heavy one. Yep.
Yep. And if we're true to who we are, we have to be consistent. So I thank you, my kings and my queens, young prince, soon to be king. I can't wait till you take over the throne so I can exhale and relax and find an island someplace where I can take a shower out in public and sit on my hammock butt naked.
Peace, everybody. You got my mail. You got my number. Call whenever. Peace.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
All right, guys. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.